Hi, and welcome to Brett's Corner, where we cover everything small business. From how to start a business, to how to grow your business, to how to keep your books, and ultimately how to position and sell your business, and some things to think about after you've sold your business. If you're a small business owner, or you're thinking of being a small business owner, you're in the right place. My name is Brett Husselball, and I've been a small business owner for over half my career. I started my first small business in 1995. I quickly grew that one to over multi-millions in revenue, and I sold that to a Fortune 500 in 1998. I started my second small business in 2000. I grew that one more slowly to over $1 million in revenue, and I sold that to a multi-billion-dollar corporation in 2014. And now I'm retired. And what I like to do here at the Corner is to share the benefit of my experience with you. So, before we begin, a quick disclaimer. Number one, I'm not an attorney. I will share with you some of the experiences I've had regarding legal issues and what worked for me, but what worked for me may not work for you. If you have specific legal questions, consult an attorney. Number two, I'm not a CPA, nor am I a certified financial planner. But like every business owner, I know my financials, and we'll talk financials, and I'll share with you some of the things that you should know. But if you have specific financial questions or tax questions, consult a professional. Same goes with investment questions. Consult a professional. So, with that out of the way, let's get on to today's video. Hi. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to fund your business. Now, you can have the best business idea and a perfect business plan, but you're not going to go very far if you can't find funding. So let's talk about the sources, and there are many possible. The first one, and the most commonly used one, is your own personal savings. Myself, on my third business, used my own personal savings to fund the startup of that business. Now, the way you want to structure that in your business is as a loan, an actual loan. Actually write up a loan document. I went online, I found a common loan document, and I used it with interest, and you loan your personal money to the business. Now, that's a loan that the business has taken out. It in turn pays you back. My business paid me back over a period of 3 years on a monthly basis, as if I had gone and taken a loan out from anybody. So that's the best way to structure it if you're going to actually use your personal savings as a loan to your business, and actually write it up as a loan. Another form is home equity. So my first business was in Texas. Texas has a Homestead Act where the home is protected from lenders except for the primary lender, so it wasn't very useful as collateral for a line of credit, so there wasn't such a thing available to me in Texas. But in some states, you may be able to use a line of credit against your house, the equity in your house, as a way of funding your startup business. Another thing that's not used often is cashing in the cash value of some of your life insurance policies. Well, as I mentioned, that's not popular, but it is a possible source of cash. Another source, your friends and family. Now, I'm not personally comfortable with that because I have to eat Thanksgiving dinner with these folks. And I don't want someone saying, "Hey, Brett, can you pass me the mashed potatoes and the $5,000 you owe me?" And so I never really sought that route, but a good friend of mine started his business exactly that way. He went around and sold stock in his private company to his various friends and some of his family members, and that's how he started his business. So that's an option possibly that will work for you. Another way, and a very common way, is through a loan, a bank loan or an SBA loan. So just to be clear, the SBA doesn't actually loan you the money. The SBA backs the loan from a bank who is qualified to lend SBA loans. So you go find a bank, go online and find a bank that is SBA qualified. But you go to a bank and you just take out a loan like you normally would. Now, here's something I learned about taking out loans from bankers. The best time to ask for a loan from a banker is when you don't need it. And here's a story around that. When I started my first business, that's exactly how I funded my business, through an SBA loan. But I made it a point to go into my banker and talk to him about, "Hey, I might need an SBA loan. What do you think?" And he goes, "Mr. Husselball, I don't see a problem with that at all." And so just fill out this paperwork, and the paperwork included writing a business plan. And so I didn't have time for that, I was busy. And so I put it up on the shelf. Not long thereafter, I hit my first cash crisis, and I almost lost my business. I needed cash, I needed that money now. So I quickly wrote that business plan. It was 40 pages when I was done. I filled out all the paperwork. I went into his office. I set all that paperwork down on his desk. What do you think he picked up? It's the first thing he picked up. My business plan? Nope, he never looked at it. I spent most of the time writing that. No, he picked up 2 pages that stated my own personal net worth. I didn't have any. He looked at it, he looked at me, and he said, I'm sorry, Mr. Hustleball, but there isn't enough personal net worth here to collateralize this loan. I was dumbfounded. I was panic-stricken. Now what? You're the same guy that told me that this wouldn't be a problem. You know what I learned? He could see it. He could see the fear in my face. And it spooked him. And so the best time to ask for money is when you don't need it. But I still had the problem. I had to solve it. So how did I solve it? Well, I thought about it, and then I called up my customers, and I said, from now on, before we send anybody out on a job, you'll have to pay us 40% up front. And guess what they said? Okay. Not one of them said no. And I'm talking about big companies like Unisys, NCR Corporation, IBM. They all agreed to it. And every customer after that agreed to it. No one said, well, 30% is better. Nope, they all agreed to 40%. And why did I ask for 40%? Because that's what it cost me to deliver the job. If I didn't get paid another cent, at least I broke even. And so I solved the cash problem. Now quickly, my cash flow caught up. Now I was cash rich. I went into the very next bank. I didn't go through 3 banks or 10, the very next bank, sporting a whole different attitude. My attitude was, I don't need your money. I sat down with the VP of the bank. He could read it in my face. I don't need your money. Oh, Mr. Hustleball, we can work out a new line of credit with you. We can get you that SBA loan, move all your business over to us. And so I did. And I got the SBA loan. Best time to ask for money from a banker is when you don't need it. Very satisfying call I had that day was to call my former banker up and say, hey, guess what? I took your advice. I shopped the loan. I got it, very next bank. I'm moving all my business from you to them. Thank you. Have a nice day. So what's another option that you can have? Well, another option is private equity. So let me talk about 2 different ways of funding, by the way. You've got debt-based financing, and that's taking a loan out of some sort. And you got equity-based financing, and that is selling a portion of your company in return for the investment. So when you go looking for equity, private equity, also known as angel investors, these are high net worth individuals that you're going to invest or get to invest in your business. In the old days, they were hard to find. But now with the internet, just Google angel investors, and there's sites that actually help you find an angel investor. If you're going to go down the equity route, you probably want to search for either crowdfunding equity or angel investors first. You probably won't get involved with venture capitalists or any kind of institutional equity until you get bigger anyway. So those will probably be your best source. But a caution about equity. Now, I never took out equity or sold equity in my company in return for investment, but I was looking at it, especially in my first company. I had gotten as far as I could go with debt-based financing, and I needed more financing. So I took a look at equity-based financing and wasn't comfortable with it. Number one, I wasn't comfortable with possibly losing control of my company, and that is a possibility. Depends on what arrangements you make. But you're going to be expected to perform to certain expectations that you set when you get that financing. And if you fail to perform, depending on how sophisticated the investors are, they could go as far as taking control of your company. So something to be aware of, but it is a source of capital. So angel investors, they're going to expect a certain return better than a loan return because they're taking on more risk. Their risk is you could go out of business and they get nothing. So they're going to want a better return, and they're going to give you a little bit longer runway to make that return happen than a loan will. But that's another source of capital. Go searching on the internet for angel investors, private equity, high net worth individuals. Another way of doing equity is crowdfunding. That's relatively new and made possible by the internet. And crowdfunding, sites like GoFundMe, go look up crowdfunding, is a way of doing equity-based across, instead of a single investor, a whole series of private investors that are brought together by this site. So that's another possible way of getting funding for your business. There's also peer-to-peer lending. It's a source, a subset of crowdfunding, but this is debt-based financing. So crowdfunding, there's equity-based, and then there's peer-to-peer lending, which is debt-based. You're taking a loan out, but instead of the loan coming from a bank or being backed by the SBA, the loan's coming from a whole series of individuals who are making small investments, summing all their money up, and now you get the investment you're looking for. And so that's another way that you can do peer-to-peer. Things like lendingclub.com, prosper.com, Google lending or peer-to-peer lending for peer-to-peer lending. That gets us down to the last source of capital, the one you really don't want to use, but it is a source: credit cards. Why? Credit cards are incredibly expensive money. 18 to 20 some percent interest rates. Steer clear of credit cards. It's a last resort. You don't want to be taking on debt with that kind of interest rate if you can help it. Now, interestingly enough, in the old days with banks, when you would actually go in and meet with a vice president of the branch and work with that vice president to establish a business relationship, you could negotiate a business line of credit, a revolving line of credit. And as I got bigger, there were certain covenants that were put in place on that line of credit, and the bank had certain thresholds by which they could call the line exactly, at that moment in time if we missed that threshold. But that was a typical, but the interest rate was well below credit card interest rate. A little bit above the home lending rate, but well below credit card rates. Now, if you go into a bank, there's no vice president in that branch, but the decisions are made back in some central office somewhere for lending, but the bank will, with no collateral, will offer you a credit card. And they offered me up to $50,000 on that credit card without any collateral or any questions asked, basically. But it's very expensive. I mean, that's their form of a line of credit. That's their going in position now, is here's our line of credit, here's your line of credit. It's a credit card, a bank credit card. And so, I would steer clear of credit cards. If you get big enough, and I highly recommend, as you start to take on employees and start to have, predictable cash burn, go get a line of credit, even if you don't need it. I did do that for my second and third business. I grew them on their cash flow, but go get a line of credit, even if you don't need it. As a matter of fact, that's the best time to ask for it, is when you don't need it, so that you have the money there just in case. So let's recap. There are many sources for funding your business. The most commonly used one is a personal savings. And I would recommend do that as a loan to the business. Actually write up a loan document and do it as a formal loan, you to your business. Home equity may be a possibility, depends on your state. You can cash in your life insurance policies or get the cash out of life insurance policies. It's not commonly done, but it's a possible use of, or a source of cash. Your friends and your family, depends on your relationship and how that might work. If you're a little late getting the money paid back, or if your company fails. And so that is a source, though. A bank, an SBA loan. You got SBA microloans. Go look up microloans up to $50,000 with, for certain types of businesses that qualify, is another form. You got private equity, angel investors. Go look up, Google angel investors. Crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending are another source of capital. And then, of course, last but not least, credit cards. I would steer clear of credit cards if you can. If you like the content we're providing here, please follow us. And as always, if you have any questions, please direct those questions to info@brettscorner.com. I'll watch that email address and I'll respond to your emails. I won't respond to comments you leave on the video, so please use the email address if you have any questions or you want me to respond. And as always, thanks for watching.